good. I apologize if I'm silent. I'm just trying to get everything in order here. Here we go. Okay, guess we'll start now. Gonna set up the thing so I can listen to you guys here at the same time. To make sure the chat's working. Okay. If one of you can test the chat, that would be cool.
Mic off. Mic on.
Okay, so in this live stream, we're going to be discussing something that's sort of a controversial topic, and it's going to be some stuff that I'm working on, and it's going to be the economy revision project. Right here in front of me, I have my project RoE Trello. It's sort of a board where I can oh, my music's too loud? Okay. I might have to just... I have the music, like, set really low, so maybe I can just... There we go. Is that any better? Is the music, like, quieter now? I apologize for not taking that into account before I got in here. I'm also sort of just a quiet speaker. But yeah, if one of you can confirm if the music's good now. Sort of turned it down a bit. Just wait for that so people can actually hear me. Okay, cool. So what I have in front of me is my RoE Trello, and what this is sort of a board where I talk about, or where I keep track of things that I'm going to be adding to the game. And in today's discussion, I'm going to be talking about the economy revision project. It's very controversial. A lot of people are going to have a lot of rustled jim jams or a lot of applauding. So you're going to have two sides of people that think this is a great idea, and then there's going to be people that think this is a terrible idea. And I just want to go over them and be completely transparent about what's going to go in. And I'm going to go down the list here about each thing. But before I get into that, you can see that I have other things on the Trello here, like working on the exterior build and the interiors and stuff, and this probably looks pretty interesting to you. However, I'm only covering one topic per video, so if you want to see me talk about these other topics like the sim build and what I have going on here, because I have a lot of stuff I'm working on here that's going to go into the game, subscribe, and we can the other videos will be covering this kind of stuff, because this stuff's really interesting. I want to talk about that, um, but I'll have to get into that in a different video. Today we're just going to talk about the economy stuff, but one more thing before I get into that is some of the stuff on this list is going to require a huge rework of the system, and I've been talking with my developers, my scripters, my coders, whatever you want to call them, and we're actually planning on making a massive rework of all of the back-end stuff, all the server-end stuff that makes RoE actually work, its guts, its inner workings. And when we do that, there's going to be massive improvements that you'll see. Like, for example, it'll just be less laggy to begin with, because it'll just be coded more properly. But then you're going to see a lot of things like this on the website. So I'm planning on having it so when you go to log in and you go to your character, you're going to have like a paper doll, and it'll be something like this. And it'll auto-populate, like it'll show you what your stats are, it'll show you your traits, it'll show you what your equipment is in each of these slots, you know, all that sort of stuff, so you can sort of view your character at a glance from the website now. And another interesting thing about that is you'll also be able to see your inventory like over here on the website, and what the plan is with this is that you'll be able to click and drag your items over onto your head slot, your chest slot, so you'll literally have a visual inventory system to drag and equip your stuff instead of having to type in commands. The end world commands will still be there. They're not going away, but we are going to be adding this sort of system to the website, this sort of RPG paper doll where you can click and drag things onto it. So that's going to be really cool. That's the thing I'm most excited for, but that's going to take a while to build because we have to redo the entire website to get that to function. But my admins, I'm sorry, not my admins, my scripters are working on it now. So I'm going to close that out, but just one more bit of information about it. Basically, it's a functioning paper doll, or visual equipment with an item management system on the website. Under your character profile, you'll be able to click and drag items onto your empty slots. Slots will also be smart, and what I mean by this is if you try to drag like a chest item onto your head slot, it won't let you do that. Like, it'll say it can't equip here, so you can't screw up your build. You can't equip something that you can't get. It'll also look at your traits and your races and say, oh, your race can equip that, or you know, you have this stat that's applied to you now. So the system will be a little bit more smart in the future. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. So that's a cool thing that we're working for. But on to the main course, the economy revision. So let me preface this by first explaining something. The goal of this is basically to repair the very broken, inflated economy that we have. I mean, I'm not going to beat around the bush. The economy is so inflated that there are players that are sitting on hundreds of thousands, if not some that have millions of credits, and the value of the credit has gone down so significantly that people don't even really use them anymore, don't find them valuable, and it's ruining a lot of the role play and the game elements of the system, and it needs to be corrected. And I've had multiple meetings with my devs about what to do about this. I mean, it's become such a problem that I've had players tell me that they are leaving the sim and not coming back until we've solved the economy problem and fixed the inflation. So it got really high up on the priority list of things that we need to do, and we came, and after several meetings, we came to several conclusions of things that we need to add or redo with the system to make it to fix this problem. And we really wanted to avoid a wipe. I'm not going to lie to you guys, it was definitely something that was on the table. We were strongly considering just doing a wipe, and we didn't want to. I didn't feel that it was right to just rip things out of people's hands like that. I hate doing that. So we sort of went with the idea that there needs to be put in credit sinks, all sorts of them. The reason the economy has become so inflated is because the credits have nowhere to go to. And the more and more people get, pull from nodes or go to the ATMs and just keep bringing in credits, that adds more credits to the system and they have nowhere to go. So it just inflates and inflates. So a lot of the changes that you're going to see on this list, as upsetting as some of them might be to you, as some of them might make the game way harder for you, they're unfortunately a very necessary evil that has to be into the game, and we really had to consider that when we were making these. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. These are things that should have been in the game to begin with. It's because without them, it's led to this problem of the system being very inflated. So I just want to get that out of the way. I wanted to explain that these have to go into the game, like them or hate them. Some of you are going to agree, some of you are going to hate the idea, but these things got to go in, guys. Like, it's bad. Like, it's really bad. I've been looking at some of the numbers of credits that are in the system, and it's so bad. Like, if I can't bring it up here on screen because of player privacy acts and stuff like that, but there's people that have millions of credits, and they need to get flushed, like, really bad. Like, it just has to happen. There is a secondary topic that goes with this, is like, how is this going to affect new players? Because yeah, this makes the game harder for new players, and I'll go into that. We do have a plan for new players, but first I'm going to go over the changes that you should expect to see over the next between 2019 and 2020. You will see these go into the game. They're not all going to go in at once, because it is going to take time to script a lot of these in. But some of them you will see go in right away. Others you won't see until probably 2020, once the system is completely re-scripted. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first one here is crafting fees on all the public benches. So the public crafting benches will have a 10% fee of the total value based off the existing value of the items. The faction group benches will only have a 5% fee. All of these credits will be entirely deleted from the system. So anytime you hear me say the word sync or credit sync, that literally means that the credits basically are deleted from the game. I mean, it's literally a sync. They need to go someplace to get out of the game. And it's that. So when they go from player to player, they won't do that, obviously. But usually when they go to an NPC or a vendor of some kind, or a bench of some kind, they'll be flushed out of the game to prevent credit inflation. And basically what we're doing here is, when you use a crafting bench from now on, it's going to cost a little bit of a fee, and it's going to be 10% of whatever the item's value is. If it's a faction or group bench, then it's only going to be 5%. So it's going to be cheaper to craft on on your group's benches. The algorithm, or the math, or whatever you want to do, is right here. Percentage of the fee per item times the amount of the items being crafted. So for example, if you have if you're trying to make 50 grenades and they're 30 a pop, then you're going to wind up with a 1,500 credit fee to craft those 50 grenades. So it's not going to be a huge fee. It's not going to be anything super detrimental, but there will be a fee to get some credits out of the system. We feel that this is necessary. This last part about faction group benches retaining their current bonuses. So all this is talking about is that when you craft on your group's bench, you'll just have an added bonus to not failing on the craft. And if you have a crafting implant, that bonus will stack with your group bench bonus. So I believe there's a 5% chance, don't quote me on this, but I think it's a 5% chance of not to break things if you have a crafting implant. It could be more, I don't know, but for this example. And then the crafting on your group's bench will be a 5%. So all in all, you'll get a 10% bonus to crafting that's not really changing, but that I just sort of wrote that so you know that's not going anywhere. And I see that there's people in the chat. Um, Feel free to ask me a question if you want. I'm here. I can type to you. I can talk to you. I don't have a problem answering questions over the stream. But I'm going to continue on the list. So another big change that you're going to see is buff and debuff ticks. It's really what it sounds like. All of the buffs, the debuffs, the wound timers, anything that has a timer relation, like anything that has a timer on it that would tick down, is going to be changed. So it's only ticking down if the player is on the sim with the HUD active, and that sort of I don't have it written here, but that also means that you're going to see new commands. You will see an AFK command or an OOC command that you can activate, and when you're in those states, you can't mine, you can't craft, you can't post, and your timers will pause. Your timers will also pause if you go off sim. So anything that's timer related will be based on if you're on the sim and in IC mode or in character mode. So it's not really economy thing, but it's going to be rolling out with the economy patches. Here's a big one, and I love to talk about this because this has so much potential. The clones in the medical system. So here's a big thing about the clones in the medical. I'm noticing that there's a lot of people that just go to the hospital to get something done and then leave, and it leaves the doctors with just boring nothingness to roleplay with. It's not very fun with the doctors. I understand it's a matter of inconvenience, or convenience rather, to do that, but the other problem is that I'm seeing a lot of people run around on the sim just not role playing out their wounds. Like, they'll get wounded and they'll still go around with the wounded status on them and pick up nodes or role play or get into combats and just completely ignore the fact that they're wounded. Like, even when they're mortally wounded, they're just still running around and doing stuff as if they weren't. And I really don't like that. I know it's a major inconvenience for people, but it's so immersion breaking and just sort of scumming to do when you do like that, because things are, I try to put things on the honor rule system, and there are people that just will not care. And so I've been left with no choice but to literally hard code in the wounds in the mortal wound system, and that's what this is doing. So let's go over this, because there's a lot to unpack here, but I wanted to preface this with an explanation of why this is going in. It's also a form of credit sync, which is another thing, with this economy thing. But so this was important that it goes in. So anyway, when players receive a wound of any type, they may visit a hospital to clear it for a credit fee based on the length of the timer. So this is new. So basically, there's still going to be wounds and mortal wounds, but now you can actually go to the hospital to pay a fee and get rid of it. And that fee will be based on how much time is left on your timer, rounded up to the next hour. They may also just, if you don't have the fee, you can just wait and it'll clear naturally. Mortal wounds will not go away though. Mortal wounds will stay on you until you get rid of them. You have to go to the hospital to get rid of a mortal wound, whereas a regular wound will eventually clear. So I just want to be clear with that. During a normal wound status, a wound, your titler will change to say wounded in big red block letters above your name, so everybody will see that you are wounded. Even during mortally wounded status, it'll say it in all red caps, I'm wounded. So you'll see it up on your titler now. A normal wound will carry the penalty of -2 to all of your stats automatically, like it'll be hard-coded in, and a -2 to your maximum energy points. So there's actually a detriment to running around wounded. So you really want to clear those wounds up. But you don't have to, but you're going to be impacted if you don't. So, but the real meat and potatoes here is when you're mortally wounded, the player may not reset. They can't enter combat. They can't use energy points in any way. They can't go to the bank. They can't use crafting benches. They can't use vendors. at all. Like, basically, the only thing you can do is switch to another character and walk around. Um, and that's just to get you to the hospital. You have to go to the hospital when you're mortally wounded. Like, you're on the ground, like, you're going to die. So, you have to go to the hospital. A mortally wounded player may spend credits at a hospital to purchase a clone item, uh, which is crafted by hospital personnel. So this is a new item that's going to be going into the game. And you can flavor text that item any way you want. You can say it's a regeneration ticket, like you're getting reconstructed, or you're waking up a clone. We might not call it the item a clone because that limits it. We might name it something more neutral, so you could flavor text it as reconstruction or clone or whatever you want. But basically, there's an item that you have to get from the hospital personnel, making an importance on giving an importance to the hospital staff, because people are just sort of ignoring them, and I don't like that. So anyway, when you're mortally wounded, you will have to go to the hospital because you won't be able to use your HUD really to do anything except go to the hospital and get this item that allows you to clone yourself or wake up or get reconstructed or whatever. And if the player can't afford the item, they will go into debt with said hospital. And this will be recorded for debt collection, and there'll be a new group for the hospitals that are basically repo men that will come and harvest your organs if you don't pay your debt. So that's going to be cool. I really like the idea of that. Like, if you've ever seen that movie, Repo Men Genetic Opera, I forget what it's called, but yeah, it's basically like that, where you'll literally have repo guys going around and be debt collectors. I can potentially even see Ex Preda getting involved with that whole with the whole idea of repoing shit that you owe people. So that would be really cool. So there's so much potential for roleplay just adding this in, but it's also a money sink, which is what the economy needs. So the HUD, but here's the other thing: the HUD commands will also change. Right now, when you do an at HP 0, it just turns your all of your stats and your combat information off. That's going to be changed with this patch. You're going to get a new slew of commands. So at HP off will just turn off your combat stats, whereas the new command will be at HP 0 to trigger the wounded status, and at HP M will trigger the mortal wounded status. So you can literally, like, when you down somebody, you need to ask them to trigger these statuses, so they take their wounds and their losses properly. So now you can literally see if somebody's just going to walk off and not take their wounds or take their lumps or whatever you want to call them. They need this consequence-based roleplay here, people. Like, when you go down in combat, you will be asked to trigger these statuses on your HUD, and you'll have to go visit the hospital. So people are now going to be forced to actually play out their consequences of losing. So, and yeah. So I think I got a question here in the chat. One of the new groups not given to marshals since there's bounty hunters. I don't really know what you're talking about there, but I think what they're saying is in relation to the repo services. Yeah, so I already got a question about the at HP 0. Yeah, I was just talking about that. There's new commands. The new command to just turn off your combat status will be at HP off. At HP 0 will now turn into triggering the wounded status. And at HP M will trigger the mortal wound status. And this guy's in the chat is saying, well, what if they forget that and accidentally trigger the wound status? The accidents are probably going to happen, and admins, like, just send an just ping an admin and be like, hey, I accidentally triggered this. Can you turn it off for me? And then they can go into the system and do that. It's not a big problem. Eventually people will just, it's going to be written down. It's going to be announced ahead of time. So, accidents are going to happen. We are understanding of that. Anyway, moving on. So the next thing I want to go into, and here's a big one. Oh boy, item degradation. So a lot of people are going to seethe at this, and other people are going to applaud it. I think it was a great idea, so I'm definitely putting it in. Your items will degrade and they'll break. Um, they won't go away forever. Like, when items break, they merely just become unequipped and go back in your inventory. You can't equip them again until they're um, broken, until they're fixed. But so your items aren't just going to permanently disappear if they break. So I don't want to scare anybody, but I do think this needs to go into the game. I got a question. Sorry about that. I was replying to a question in chat. So here's how it's going to work. So when a player, we just got done talking about the new commands. So an at HP 0 will no longer just turn off your stats. At HP off will do that. So when you do an at HP 0 and trigger the wounded status, that will start a flag, and when you're wounded, your HUD will roll against you and look at all the stuff that you have equipped that's non-installed. So just non-installed equipment, and there's a 1% chance that one of those items will randomly break and become unequipped and receive a broken tag. On an at HPM, which is a mortal wound, that everything, including installed things like implants, can break. And on a mortal wound, there's a greater chance that things will break at a 5% chance, including um, implants and everything. So yeah, they can break. We're not pulling any punches here. This is RoE is going to be a little bit more hardcore. So anyway, to fix broken items, there's going to be a new bench in both the wastelands and in town, and it'll just cost 2,000 credits and a repair kit at a repair bench, and you can fix your own stuff and equip it again. If it's an installed item, not only will you have to repair, but you will have to visit the hospital to get it reinstalled again. So yeah, there's a couple reasons why we added this. In case any of you are curious and reading at me. One, there's a big problem with, well, first of all, the most important thing is that there needs to be this sync into the game. Items need to break. This prolongs the game's longevity in life. When things break down and you have a goal, I gotta need to repair this. But also, it brings some credits out of the system, which is, again, a reason why we're having this big economy patch. Some of these credits need to come out of the system. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is I get a lot of complaints from people who are just notorious throughout the sim that just throw themselves at danger, not caring if they're going to go down in combat or not. And it's a problem because they're not getting any consequence. They just keep being a nuisance and dying, and then getting back up, and then being a nuisance and then dying again. So this sort of adds a little bit of risk to those people who just want to be constant annoyances. Like, it takes them out of combat for a little bit, gives a cooldown to their shenanigans, because that's just healthy. Like, if you're a type of player that's just going to constantly keep getting back up and throwing yourself, it gets tiring after a while. Like, it really does. So that's a couple of reasons why we're adding this in. So somebody in the chat asks, can you make a repair and have a fail chance not to lose the item, or just lose the repair kit? I think the crafting, I think the repairing will probably work a lot like the crafting, where there might be a chance to fail, but I'm not 100% on that. That's something I don't particularly, I have to be honest with you, I didn't know about that. I didn't think about that, so I'm glad that you brought that up. I'm definitely going to discuss that with my devs. I think it might be a little bit too hardcore if there's a chance to fail on repairing items, so maybe not, but maybe we need to put that in. I'll definitely announce that once we actually put this patch in, that if there's a chance to fail or not. So moving on. This one is kind of weird. Food. Having to eat. there are some people that hated the idea of this, and there are people that really like it. And I tried to put this in as most neutral way as possible. And one of the things I wanted to avoid was where if you don't eat, you just fall over dead or something, because that's just lame. Like, I don't want to have to get up in the middle of a role play, stop role playing with a bunch of people to get up and go eat. Like, I don't want to have food interrupt my whole role play experience. Like, because role play should be the primary thing that we're here for. So that should never be interrupted. Especially for this. But I did kind of want simulation aspects in here, so I tried to make it in a way where if you don't eat, you're not going to die, but you'll just start suffering combat debuffs. So the food is going to be reworked where they don't give buffs anymore. They're just there to fill your nutrition meter. And if you don't eat for a while, and it actually takes a long time. Like, you have to eat for a full, like, not like full 24 like real life hours for it to get down into the hunger status. And again, remember what I said about the timers. They only are ticking when you are on the sim and in character. So that's going to be a lot of time too, if you think about it. Like, because nobody sits on the sim for a full 24 hours, so it'll actually take several days before your character actually becomes hungry. But once they become hungry, basically all that it will be is, like, you'll take a -2 penalty to your stats. If you become really hungry, it'll start eating at your energy points, like how many times you can pull from nodes in the day. But so really, in 10th edition, there's going to, oh, by the way, surprise, we're working on 10th edition now, in case you didn't know. But in 10th edition, all of the food, tech, drink buff items are going to actually be these food items that fill a nutrition meter. And these items also have a secondary purpose. They'll be able to go to your pets as well. And that's the next thing. That's the next topic. Pets are getting a rework and going back into the game, and they'll basically be like a virtual pet. You will have to take care of them and actually feed them. They'll have the same sort of nutrition meter that you have to keep filled, or they'll run away or die or whatever. But the cool thing here is there's going to be new pets. So you're going to have your combat pet, which is just what it is right now. Well, actually, let me rewind. The more you feed your pets, they'll actually level up and become stronger and be able to do more stuff. What about cybernetics? Do they have to eat? Yes. Cybernetics will eat, like, the tech items, so, like, they'll be able to eat motor oil and anything like that. But anyway, back to the pets. So, oh goodness, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. The pets. Where was I? The pets will need to eat too, and oh right, they'll have the same nutritional meter, and the pets will there'll be new types of pets. So you're gonna have your combat pet that does the same thing that they do now. They'll level up and become stronger, but you're gonna get a scavenger pet that will be able to pick up a 6th loot node for the day. You'll also be able to get a mule pet where it can increase your bag storage. I believe there's one other type of pet, but I don't remember off the top of my head. As you can see on here, I don't have dev discussion checked, so we haven't actually spoken about this yet fully and implemented the idea, but we have decided sort of a rough idea of what the pets will do. So yeah, there's going to be new types of pets, and for those of you that have Beastmaster, yeah, those benefits can stack as well. So if you have 2 mule pets, you'll have double the bag storage that they provide. If you have 2 gathering pets, or sorry, scavenger pets we're calling them, you'll get 2 more loot nodes for the day. So yeah, they'll stack. That's really cool. Vehicles is going in, and What's interesting about the pets and the vehicles is they sort of work on the same system. So when you get a pet or a vehicle, when this is implemented, you'll actually won't get an object. The server will hand you a script, and you'll take the script and you'll put it into whatever model you guys want to represent your pets or your vehicle as. This gives everybody a level of customization to their props. But you can literally drag and drop the script into whatever, and it becomes either the RoE vehicle or the pet. The vehicles will have equipment slots, and you'll be able to drag and drop your equipment onto your vehicle and put it on the ground, and it'll have its own titler, and people will be able to see it and interact with it. So that'll be a thing. But one of the biggest things we're doing, why this is showing up in the economy patch, is because when a vehicle goes into combat, it'll have item degradation on it. Before and earlier we did talk about item degradation. That means that it will have to get repaired as well, and it'll, just like a real vehicle, will have to get serviced. And this is really cool to me because it means players can start opening up repair shops and repairing vehicles and working on them. I think that's really cool. I think there's a big contingent of players that want to be mechanics and stuff, or at least I hope so. I do. I like the idea of that. But moving on. So after that, here's the next thing: the node spawn times. The node spawn times back in the day used to be very long. The nodes used to actually be really cool because the nodes were actually hard to find. And people would fight over them. They not only were rare, but they would pop up like maybe once every 6 hours or more. And that made them a little bit more rare and sought after. And when they would pop up, people would camp them and try to fight over them. And I would really like that to come back. Now, I don't want to increase the time to them showing up like every 6 hours, because that's just ridiculous. So right now they spawn, the nodes respawn like maybe once, anywhere between like 1 and excuse me, like 12 minutes. So we're going to be increasing that to anywhere between 20 and 1 hours, 20 minutes to 1 hour. So the nodes will actually pop up a little bit more rare, and this is again to defeat like just the overwhelming flow of items coming into the system. Like, again, this is an economy thing. We need less things coming into the system and more things going out to just deflate the economy and the items that people have, because it's just ridiculous. There's so many. Like, a new player will come into the game, and one of the more experienced players will just hand them tons of garbage, and then they'll just be fully kitted out in like a day or a week. And that's not how it should be. Like, that's lame. Like, I like the idea of progressing and working towards my goal over a couple months or something before I can finally say, yeah, I'm at end game now. Like, now people are coming in because they just have so many credits to give because everything's so inflated and so many items on hand that they can just hand everything over to a new player and they'll just be ready. So I think items should be popping a little bit less. Another interesting thing about the nodes is to keep people from metagaming where they would spawn in at and camping them. We used to have them scripted so they would jump in location, so they would never spawn in the same spot. They actually were dynamic and would pick a random spot in the sim to appear at that was relevant to them. So you couldn't camp them either. We're going to be bringing that back as well. I think that was really cool. There was a time too when there was a meteor that would fall, like moon rocks would random, like it was a very rare spawn, but every once in a while a meteor would fall out of the sky and land somewhere randomly in the sim, and people could mine it, and it had very valuable resources in it. If any of you RoEers that remember that was really cool. I'm gonna try to bring that back as well. I got a question here. Rare nodes for RPers kind of forces people to dedicate more time to it instead of roleplay. That's true. I mean, I can't argue with that. But that's why I'm not going to be making the node respawn times ridiculous, like where they spawn like once every 6 hours. I'm just gonna maybe like set it to like anywhere between 20 minutes to 1 hour. That I think that's more reasonable. So they're not going to be ultra rare. They're just going to be a little bit more rare than they were. I'm not going to set it to what it was like old school RoE where they popped in maybe once a day. That was too rare. So you're not going to have to just devote so much time to your nodes, because we took that into account. That's a very good point. 123 Boo 75 said that's a very good point. So we're not going crazy or apeshit with the respawn times. We're just making them a little bit more rare. But anyway, moving on. The locked nodes. So this is interesting. So now when this is an update that'll go to the locked node. So now when a player fails to open a locked node, the node will record a 1d20 plus it'll actually look at your stats and get your sneak roll. And this will be determined by the player sneak modifier, so it'll factor in your modifier too. And it'll do this automatically. And then it will then become inactive for 3 hours, during which so basically like when you steal from a locked node, like it's like you won't be able to nobody else will be able to steal from it for 3 hours. Like it'll just be tapped out. And it will have red like text above it saying like this has been tampered with, and investigators can actually come up and click on the node and roll their perception to check against the recorded sneak roll, and if they beat it, it will give them an identity of the person who was on it, who stole from it, so they have a chance to go after the person if they failed to open the node. Each investigator can only have one attempt, and only 2 attempts are allowed total. So really only 2 people, so only 2 investigators can come up and click this, and if they both fail, then the thief just gets away with stealing the item, and then that's lost. At the end of the 3-hour period, the node will no longer show the tampering text, and will go back to normal, and people will be able to steal from it again. No, the STs will not be needed for this. This will be completely automated. Basically, it'll make it so the system, the stealing system doesn't need an ST for this anymore. So that way, STs can dedicate more time to like bigger scenes. Like that. So I can try to sum this up a little bit better. So basically, if you come up to a locked node, it will passively record whatever your sneak is. It'll like roll a 1d20 plus your sneak modifier for you, and then hide that information away inside of its memory. Then the node will become, it'll just say I've been tampered with, and anybody else that comes up to click on it will roll their perception on it, so they can try to check. So the node will automatically record their perception, and if they beat the thief's sneak roll, then it'll tell them, the node will whisper to them who did it, but they only get 2 chances to do it. Otherwise, the thief will get away with it. So that's something that's gonna be really cool. We're gonna be testing that. It might not stay in the game, like depending on how well the tests go. Will the node auto update after 2 checks? Will there be a check to see if they are an investigator and not just a new person wondering what it is? Yeah, so when they click on it, a dialog box will say, hey, do you want to investigate this, yes or no? And then it'll move on from there. So that way, it'll be idiot proof. I have to admit that system is probably not it might not be in the sim's best interest. So it's going to be something that we're going to test and throw out in the system. It'll just be in the sim, and you guys can try it out for like a month and tell me if it's a good idea, bad idea, like see what kind of drama it leads to. If it works out, then we'll keep it, and if not, then we'll just get rid of it and go back to the way things are now. But we're going to try it. Here's the next big thing. Factions will no longer give paychecks. Only jobs will give paychecks. Factions will continue to give item stipends and stuff like that, but the jobs will be the things that give the paycheck. So characters will need to go and seek out an employment unless they just want to be a thief and, you know, do nodes all day and stuff like that, or run their own business. One of the big things I want to bring into RoE is the ability for players to create their own businesses and empires. That's going to be a major thing for 10th edition. I'm going to actually write up systems for players to go about that. But anyway, jobs are only going to give paychecks. This gives more of an importance for people to actually go out and, you know, fill the positions that are like I'm tired of logging in and hearing, oh, there's nobody at the hospital, oh, there's nobody serving me at the Red Tail. Like, this will actually give an incentive, a reason for people to actually go there and do those jobs. So that's why that's going in. Spies are probably going to get... Yeah, somebody says that will really suck for spies. A fair point. The spies will probably be given a chance to just join... Like, they'll have enough slots to go in. To go into a job or a faction, so it won't suck for them. The spies have special rules that will be given to them. Are job payouts going to be getting bumped up alongside it, or are they going to be off EP? I'm pretty sure that when we make that change, that the job payouts will be a little bit more increased or buffed to further incentivize people to go get the jobs. So yeah, probably. But it will still cost energy points to work the job, to pull the paychecks. That's not going away. Here's the next one, a complete reevaluation and overhaul of the society system. As you can see, I don't have dev discussion checked on here, so we haven't fully discussed how this is going to work. But the system will, excuse me, the new society system will, like, everything is going to be torn down. We're going to rebalance it. We're going to put a strong emphasis on player-created businesses and a very strong emphasis on the concept of the megacorps ruling everything. Like, a lot of the megacorp groups, like, will get a lot of benches. A lot more job groups will get more benches, and the factions are sort of going to be used to wage a wage war for the job group. So the jobs and the megacorps and the player run groups will be sort of in charge of things, while the factions are sort of employed to do war with one another. So I really want this cyberpunk concept of megacorps clashing, or big clans clashing. So we can't forget the wastelands. So there's going to be a lot of that, this really cyberpunk megacorp, like, throne war system. One other thing that I really want to add here is that I really want to put an emphasis on, I want to write rules for players to make their own empires. I want players to become their own tycoons. I want the players to be in charge of the Sims hierarchy, and you know, what megacorp's on top this week, or who's capturing what, or who has captured this node, or because I am bringing back, like, node wars, and I want to do things like have a megacorp be able to capture like benches, like the usage of benches, so they can control a monopoly, and those monopolies can shift depending on what's in charge. So I want to try to move towards things like that. But again, this is a major work in progress. I don't know how this is going to work. There's probably 1,000,001 problems and questions you have about this, like worries. I get it. I don't know myself. This isn't going in yet. Obviously, it'll be announced way ahead of time before it does. I don't even have the first thing wrote about this. I just have a general idea. So this won't be going in for a while, and you'll know about it way ahead of time beforehand. But that's sort of the idea that we'll go. I'll talk more about this when I have more details to give you. So somebody says, is there a wipe coming with that? No, I don't have any wipes planned. It would be a shifting of where the benches and stuff are, not really wiping anybody's objects. Sickness, ailments, and weather. So I'm planning on having some new weather effects in the game, and I'm planning on having yet another form of credit sync. Your players can become sick now. So there's already things in this game like Methari parasite virus. We're just building upon that. So there's a new one called nanite degenerative disease, and there's a 5% chance to contract this from digging through trash nodes. And what this does is gives you a negative to all stats. One negative to all stats. A malware can be picked up from the hacking nodes in the data net, and that's a negative to your stats in the data net. So you'll just suffer in the data net with that. The data net is going to be a bigger zone, by the way. It's going to have more of an importance. Magical miasma is picked up from mining, and I have to be very specific about this. Only mining magicka stones. So those things in the green cave are magicka stones, not the regular mining nodes. Only the mining nodes that produce magicka. You can pick up a magicka disease called magical miasma, and it'll take away some of your HP and 2 RGN. And then finally, the Methari parasite virus. The way that Methari parasite virus isn't gonna change. Cybernetics are immune to it. It causes berserk, and it has a 5% chance to attach to you if you pick up if you're going through organic nodes. So that's like the trees and stuff. How do you get rid of them? So the ailments will cost 1,000 credits to be cured at the hospital, again, to get some roleplay going into the hospital. So, and the ailments will last 24 real-life hours worth of time. So again, going back to the debuffs, it'll say on your HUD titler, "Hi, I'm sick. I have this. I have magical miasma, for example, and I'm walking around and I'm sick, and this is what it's doing to me." So everybody will be able to see that you're sick. And you can cure it right away, or just wait for it to go away if you don't have the money. But I'll get into that. Yeah. Would biodroids be immune? There will be certain races that are immune to certain sicknesses, and what those are I don't have yet. But I will also say that certain equipment will make you immune to it. So if you're doing your looting nodes, equipping an environmental suit or a biotech filtration system will make you immune to picking these up. So you can switch equipments before you go and do your loot node running. So that's pretty cool. And I think we're like 3/4 of the way through here. So I just got a few things left. The next one is bring back Node Wars. This is really self-explanatory. I don't really have much to say. The Node War systems were pretty popular, though there was a lot of drama around them. But I think they were a pretty successful thing, and people kind of enjoyed them. I'm going to bring them back, but we're only going to be doing them once a month. I think twice a month was way too much. And we already have the rules wrote out for them. So and here they are, and we'll announce, we have a whole way that these work and how they're organized and everything, and I'm happy to bring them back because I think that they were a successful thing. They caused a little bit of drama, but I think they were more good than bad. I think anytime anybody does any type of PvP in this system, there's a little drama, and we can handle drama. It's not a big deal. We have really good admins. But yeah, this is basically how they'll work. This document will be released to the public when they're announced, so you can read this. I'm not going to leave this up on the screen too much and bore you with the details, but just to summarize what Node Wars are, in case you don't know, Node Wars are basically, there's these special loot nodes that are captured. There's 4 of them. There's one in the city, there's one in the Undercity, there's one in the Wastelands, and there's one in the sewers. Basically, these things are nodes, and for like several hours on Node War Day, they're open. And the last man standing on, there's special rules for them, so it's a little bit more complicated than this, but the last man standing on them captures the node for that entire month, and that group's leader will be able to draw a special valuable resource out of it every day. And yeah, so we're moving on. Really quick, actually, I want to talk about this. This isn't under the economy revision project, but I'm going to mention this since we're on the topic of Node Wars. Something that's going to make Node Wars a little bit more interesting. In 10th edition, we have decided that leader units, so the first and second in command of a faction, will actually have special AoE buffs that they can apply to their units if they're standing in range of their units. So they'll have an AoE aura around them that makes the leader units a little bit more contendable and buffs their own units. So if you see a group leader join the fray with his group in combat, he'll actually be bolstering them. So that's going to be a really interesting thing. But I'll have more details about that when 10th edition rolls around, because we're still toying with it. But anyway, mobile banking. So here's one that's not so bad. This, you guys might really like this. ATMs will have mobile banking. So when you go up to an ATM, now you'll have two options. You'll have the option of either pulling your paychecks out like normal, or you'll have the option to deposit or withdraw items from your corresponding bank. So these will be placed all over the sim. So there'll be ATMs out in the wasteland too, and those ATMs will go to the wasteland bank, and the city ones will go to the city bank, obviously. But the drawback is because we need to have a credit sync, is that you'll have to pay a 100 credit per item convenience fee. So there's really not much more to say about that. But yeah, you won't have to sprint all the way across the sim anymore to go get items out of the bank. You'll just have to pay a convenience fee if you don't feel like walking. Alright, so moving on. I'm not going to cover this one because it's still being debated. But so I'll move right on to the mining redux system. The mining redux, I'm embarrassed, guys, because I don't have anything to tell you about this, because we literally haven't sat down and made any plans for it yet, except for the fact that we are completely redoing the mining system. I know some of you know that we've been planning this for a while, and you're probably thinking, well, how have you still not come up with anything yet? All I can say is mining is horrible. We know about it. We've heard your pleas. We know it's bad. We are going to be fixing it, and that's all I have to say. How we're going to be fixing it, I don't know yet, but we are going to be fixing it. So, moving on. I'm going to skip this one because I'm going to save this as last. Here's a cool one. Vendor stock. So we have a problem with people running up and buying an entire vendor's stock, and it's a problem, and we want to sort of prevent that, but we're not going to be removing the stocking concept. Instead, we're going to be giving vendors a money pool that they have. So they'll have not only are they going to have a limited stock so they can run out of items, but they'll have a limited supply of money. So people can't just sit there and mass sell things all at once. Once the vendor runs out of money, it won't be able to restock until people either sell more things to it, buy more things from it, or at the end of the week, its money pool will be replenished. So the vendors will be like actively working with the economy. If somebody comes up and buys a bunch of its stock, it's going to have tons of money and no stock left. So it'll be able to sell things to you. But if some asshole just sells a bunch of stuff to it and it runs out of money, that it can sell things, but it won't be able to buy things from anybody until it has more money. So they'll literally have a cash register, and once they run out of money, like they can't, give any more out. They can't sell. So people can't mass sell things to the vendors anymore. So they'll be realistic. And I think this will help the economy because you just won't have vendors with an infinite pool of money allowing people to just mass sell tons of things all day to it. Because that's another thing that's contributing to its inflation, or to the economy inflation. Here's one that's controversial. Oh, sorry, not controversial. The Mithari Bazaar. So I'm building a thing for the Mithari that's coming out. And basically it's going to be like, it's just going to be a bazaar. It's a marketplace, basically, where the Mithari do business, because in the lore they are known traders, like they're legendary traders. Um, and I'm going to be building space for it. If you guys have noticed this, there's actually spaces in the city right now where you can rent if you have a business permit. It's not the player rentals, but it is like you put your business permit in there once per month and you rent the space out, and it gives you 10 prims to build your little shop with. And I want to be able to give that to the wastelands. So the Mythari will have these spaces that you can rent with your credits. It'll probably use bottle caps for the wasteland currency or something, and you can rent these spaces and get prims and build your own little store inside the Mythari Bazaar, or go to the city and set up shop there, whichever you want to do business in. But this, allows players to do that. There'll also be some NPCs in there, so yeah, there'll be more places to like rent and do business from. So the last thing that's on my list that's really controversial is crafting. Using the crafting benches, unfortunately, is going to start costing energy points, regardless if you fail the craft or not. I think you're probably just screaming right now and pulling your hair out, but I think this just makes sense. I think it needs to go in. However, like I mentioned before, certain pets will be able to bring in more energy points, like the gathering pets are going to be a thing, so those are going to bring you in an extra energy or save you an energy point. And also, I am planning on having certain foods now restore energy points, so there'll be actual ways to restore your energy points from now on. So this won't be super detrimental. But yes, it's going to hurt people. I already see people in the chat going, yeah, that's going to hurt, but I think it makes sense. I think that it needs to go in. I think it's a good idea. I mean, it makes sense logically and economically, but I'm also trying to sort of soften the blow with adding in foods that can restore energy and having gathering pets. But yeah, it's going to slow things down. People are not wrong about that. There's people in the chat saying, yeah, it's going to slow things down. Yeah, that's the point. We do need to slow the amount of items that are just flooding into the city. Or sorry, into the economy right now, because that's the whole point to this. Like, we need to slow down the flow of money. We need to slow the amount of items that can come in. It's just too ridiculous right now. Like, I know that it hurts for you players, and I know that you guys are going, God, that's horrible, but it's something that needs... It's something that the sim needs to have. Like, I really ask that you understand this concept. The reason that we're putting this in is not to drive you guys crazy. It's to stabilize the economy because it's so bad right now. So, yeah, it's bad, but it's a necessary evil. Somebody asked, what about food? Food is a thing. It's going in. I covered that earlier, so if you want to back up the stream and watch the whole thing, I had a whole session where I was talking about food. Or I guess they're asking about the food. Yeah, the food is... Certain foods will restore energy points. So you can, like, if you eat really well, you can... No, the food will restore energy points, not consume them. Just activities will consume the energy points. Food will either, being at a high nutrition level will increase your energy. So you'll be able to loot more in a day. So the biggest thing here is obviously, Melna, what are you guys like? You've basically made the game way harder now. I like it's okay on some of us like higher level players because we have the items to weather this to weather this storm. But what about the new players? Because this is going to be way more expensive for new players to be able to jump in. It's going to be way harder. What are you going to do for that? We've made some plans on what to do with newer players, and I got them here. So I want to jump into that. So for the first 2 weeks that a new player is on Sim, they'll have a title above their head that says newbie. Now they can get that off if they don't want to have newbie above their title because some people might not appreciate that. But the 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 newbie status will basically allow the will basically kind of give an immunity shield to these newer players. So when they go down in combat, uh, they won't their items won't break. So we talked earlier about how when you get a wound or a mortal wound, your items could break. So when they go down in combat, their items will be immune from breaking during this status. They'll also get a free clone and a memory backup to start the game off with. They'll also start off with some credits in their pocket. And finally, I feel like you when you join the sim, you're not like a child. Well, you shouldn't be because that'd be illegal. But like you wouldn't just start off new to the game. Like maybe your character has a background, like maybe they were a soldier, maybe they were a miner on an asteroid belt or something. So I feel like them starting off with one profession implant that they get to pick would definitely help them get a jump start into the game, so it wouldn't be so detrimental to a new player. So this is sort of the ideas that we're going with to help new players join. Plus there's now new starter packs in the hub. But yeah, so that's the end of the economy revision. I'm going to answer some questions and I'm going to end the stream. So somebody's talking about the cost for energy points to craft, and they're saying, I'm just going to read some of the questions here. The two systems are going to butt heads a lot. Items cost 2k plus currently that's without a limit. With the limit, the price is going to shoot way up because there's no way a crafter is going to charge just 1.1. I mean, that's just always going to be a thing. I know that it's probably unpopular, but I really do think I'm going to stand by my decision. I think that the crafting should cost an energy point. Like I just think that it is. Again, I'm trying to soften that blow by allowing you to eat food that will increase your energy points for the day, and also there's new pets that are going into the game. That I mean, if you're a Beastmaster with 2 scavenger pets, you're gonna have, and you're well fed. Let's see, you're gonna have 5, 6, 7, 8 energy points for the day. So that's like 8 nodes that you could get. When I first started off as a new player, I was scared to walk around and actually do anything because I couldn't protect myself. I just sort of grinded out gear, and it was already very tough. Yeah, I mean, it is. It's scary, and in a way, I kind of like that because like, when I start an MMO, I want to start out at the bottom and then work my way up to a top. And I feel like giving that progression to, like, sense of progression, like you're actually accomplishing something, I feel is really important to do in a game. Otherwise, when everything's just scaled and everything's set on an even footing, like, I feel like when people are able to put in more work and time into their characters, they should be rewarded for it. But Melna, crafting that one food item and then eating it to put it back in the energy point is kind of well dumb off. No, I mean, you don't have to craft the food. I mean, this is why I was saying, like, you could just go buy the food and get a stock of food. Like, food's not going to be really difficult to obtain. This is why I said the jobs are going to give, the jobs are going to be more important now. So there will be a lot more people working jobs and crafting food for you. So yeah, that's my answer to that. The food will probably be batch crafted from now on. I do agree with Rain, yeah. But I see where you're coming from. I don't feel that you're out of line. The crafter will have to craft the food, yes. And it'll cost them an energy point. I do have to say, though, we will have to work out those problems because you and Rain and Boo in the chat bring up pretty good points. Like, how are they going to work their jobs if they have to craft an item and, spend their energy points on other people? So yeah, I mean, that's a very good point. I think that I'm gonna have to think that out. Obviously, that's not going into the system tomorrow or anything, so I don't have to worry about it. So that's something that I will talk over with my devs. It's definitely something that we have to think about. I didn't think about that. It's a very good point. I'm glad that you brought that up. I'll work that out. I think it'll probably be what you suggested though, where when you craft food, it'll be crafted in batches from now on. Um, that way, it's not so detrimental. Or maybe we not might not go with that. So um, the things that I'm showcasing here um, are pretty much all 99% of it is going to be going in some form or another. But that last one there, that energy point thing, that crafting costs energy points, that's not something that um, that is marked as we've had a dev discussion about. It's going in for concrete. The other things that I mentioned here tonight are going in, but that one is still a work in progress. So let's not worry about that too much. Do you ever think that there will be a energy point reward based system off the amount of RP somebody does? Oh, that's a really cool idea. I didn't even think about that. Now that you mention it, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I'm gonna make that a thing. I'm gonna write that on the Trello right now. Thank you for the suggestion. Oh, I'll have to log in, but I can't log in until I shut the stream down because I don't want you guys looking at my passwords. Um, yeah, I'm definitely gonna write. I'm gonna write that down, Blaze. That's a really cool idea. I definitely do want to give more. Um, I definitely do want to give more rewards for people turning in their roleplay stuff. Blaze asks, so what's stopping somebody from just stockpiling food and eating it potentially? Uh, basically, there's a limit. The nutrition meter only goes up to a certain amount. Uh, how are you going to track the roleplay? I'm gonna have to talk to every um, group leader and get them to sit down and look at that, see if we can organize something like that. It was actually a thing in a sim that I used to play in called COLA, which stood for City of Lost Angels. And they had an EXP system, and you would level up. You had levels. RoE doesn't have levels, but you had levels, and you could increase your stats through your levels. It didn't have items. And you would gain EXP per second you were on the sim, but also turning in your roleplay logs to your group leaders would give you, they would get, like, once they got that, they would look at the amount of logs you turned in for that month and give you a big reward bonus amount of EXP. So I want to try to do something like that. Yeah, Cola was awesome. I miss Cola. I think it's still there, but like it's really dead like now. Oh, yeah. Rosie just added the suggestion that J to the WA said, so it's on there now. So don't forget about. I didn't forget. Thank you, Rosie. Uh, oh, there was something else that I was gonna mention to you guys, and now I forget. Man, I suck. Oh, I remember what it was. So now that we're ending the stream, as you guys can see, there's a lot of stuff here on my Trello that I'm working on, and I would love to talk to you guys about this, but I'm gonna make each one of these its own individual topic, and I'm gonna keep doing dev diaries. So if you want to see me talk about things like the new sim build that I got going here, because I got some progress shots to show and some topics to talk about this, so you guys can know what I'm building. Because the new sim build's almost done. Like I'm getting it meshed by somebody. You guys got to subscribe to me and check in for the next dev diary, because I'll talk about that stuff. Um, but yeah, I got this plan. I'm redoing the Venusian base. the order base. I'm doing the new casino. I'm going with something more like this. So that picture is taken from a different game, but I want to go with something like that. The new Wastelands is probably going to look something a little bit like this. And there's going to be two Wastelands. There's going to be a deep waste and a regular waste. And so yeah, like the junk city is going to be more like this. They're going to be more advanced. But yeah, I'll get into those topics later in another Dev Diary. So subscribe to me, guys, if you want, and we'll talk about that. Yeah, and there's another topic I want to talk about. I'm doing the new Colsec armor here. That'll be another dev discussion. I got armor going on. Guys, I can talk all day about these new sim builds, but really, it's going to cost money to do some of that stuff. And if you guys, that money doesn't fall out of my ass, so if you guys could go to the hub and buy some of these packs, all that money goes directly into buying you guys nice new things. We're going to get new armor for Colsec, a new armor for the pirates, a new sim build, new interiors for the sim, and I have to commission artists to do those things. And I need your guys' support, because my paycheck goes to funding the sim, and the rental paychecks like that I get from the rental goes into funding the sim. So any extra money I got gets spent on you guys. And if you guys go to the hub and buy some of these packs, you'll get something out of it. These are rewards for you, and it's listed right here. If you get some of these packs, you can buy as many of them as you want. And I take the money and I go and commission mesh artists to make us cool things. So please, if you can support, if you're able and willing to support, go to the hub and grab these, will you? And I will stop shilling now, because I know a lot of people don't like advertisements. Oh, by the way, for those of you that do donate, like that go and buy a lot of these packs, I do have special access. So if you spend over 50,000 linden with me, like, you're gonna get access to the sim while I'm building it, because the sim will be down while I'm building it, and you'll also get a VIP rental for an entire year. EXP, I do have a base designed for EXP. This is what I will be building for EXP. I'm going to be rebuilding their hideout. I actually already, speaking of mesh artists, the mesh artist already commissioned me. I'm sorry, the artist that I commissioned already finished the interior pieces that I need to build stuff like this. He is delivering them to me this week. So the interior sets that I've been building, you guys have already paid me for. I've already got commissioned and are ready to go this week. So I will be building the interiors like this week. So thanks, guys. Like, you guys have already have donated, and we've already got one of these things done. The exteriors and the armors are next now. So thanks to you guys donating, we are like, we're getting new. We've already got new stuff that I'm laying out this week. So really, thanks a lot, guys. I never thought in a million years that some of my dumb ideas would make it this far, but you guys are really into RoE and have been. I mean, I've raised over $500 in donations from you guys the past few months to get some of this stuff made, and it wasn't cheap. But if you want me to show that sort of stuff, tune in for the next Dev Diaries again. Subscribe to me, and I'm gonna end the stream here. How much of the new sim build is done? Sorry, you're gonna have to tune in and subscribe. So I'll post that video. I'll talk all about the new sim build in the next one. I'm gonna be doing these Dev Diaries probably once every other week, or probably once a month or something. I'm going to try to do once every other week. So every 2 weeks, I'm going to do one of these Dev Diaries. So, all right, going to end it here. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a good night. Subscribe for the next one. See ya.